So we played Skull Servants for the sneak peek today because we got to play with the new support just for fun. This deck's 41. There's a couple different ways to build it. I decided to play pure zombie today instead of going into the Lightsworn and Horus and all that jazz. So you've got Double King. The third one's kind of cloggy. And 3 of the new Moisa White. It's a Searcher, a double summon, and it locks you into zombies. But it works off normal or special summon. 3 Baker. Whenever it goes to grave, it searches for 2 different named Skull Servant cards and then lets you discard any card from your hand. So one of the ones you grab is the Lord. This is like a hand trap Chaos Ruler. You mill equal to the number of Skull Servants in grave, and it can banish itself from grave to summon back a king from grave. The other one you grab with the Baker and then discard is the Prince. When Prince hits the graveyard not once per turn, it lets you mill a copy of Lady in White and a copy of the OG Skull Servant. So you've got 19 names here. Your Skull Servant Kings get pretty big. And then Prince can also banish from grave plus 2 other Skull Servants to summon a king from the deck. So you've got lots of ways to bring stuff back and extend.
Okay.
Since I went pure zombie today, for the record, this deck is terribly weak to hand traps. I bank on the fact that most players are holding them for like board breaking and interactive stuff, and not just shotgunning on my starters. Because when that happens, this deck falls apart. So you got 3 Solitaire, because he'll tribute himself off to get to the 3 Unizombies. Unizombie then lets you dump things like the Baker and the Prince, start stacking your grave, getting Skull Servant names in there. And then modulating level, we do some zombie synchro play stuff, so the tuner actually matters. So that's your first 6. We play 2 Gozukis. The Mizuki Retrain, it dumps on normal, and then if it hits the graveyard, it can banish another zombie to summon another zombie. And then the other 2 to round out sort of 10 other zombie starters is Jack Bolin. You pitch a zombie from hand to special it. So you can trigger your Prince or your Baker to kind of get things going. And then it can tag itself out as a quick effect on your opponent's turn for another zombie monster. So if you need to bring back a king, or if you've gone through your synchro plays and want to bring back one of those from the grave or whatnot. So you've got sort of 10 non-Skull Servant starters. Sort of techie stuff. There's a Plague Spreader and a Volcarian. Volcarian's kind of like Zephyros. It can bounce back to hand to summon a different thing from hand, and then if you have a zombie on board, it can just summon itself from hand. So just free extension, and you can kind of cycle some things through with it. Revival, it's zombie, so we've got 3 Mizuki and a Zombie Master. Again, with being very weak to hand traps, but if it resolves, cool things happen. Then we just play a couple spells. 2 of the new Reanimator. It lets you target any Skull Servant in your grave, dump a Skull Servant from deck to reborn it, and then it gives your King of the Skull Servants Piercing. It is once per turn, but it's per copy. So technically you can resolve both. I never did it, but 1 for 1, Foolish, both single card starters for themselves, and then the 1 of Talents, Called By, and Prosperity. So that's 41 in the main. I'll do side deck first, because another pure version you can play this is around 45 cards, and you play the Ballardrock with the Necro Banshee and Zombie Worlds. And then because you're on Zombie World, you get to play Super Poly for the big zombie Drago thing. So I've got that, just kind of, the sideboard's fake, but it's idea stuff. Relevant cards, obviously your 2 Bestials, 3 Spiritual Swords. If it's in the graveyard, you can just protect yourself from battle. This build doesn't mill as much as like the Lightsworn builds do, but still, if you hit it off of a White Lord, you just have some built-in protection, and then evenly matched. Extra deck, you've got the Almirage and the Anima for linking off your 1s. Force yourself to trigger the Prince or the Baker if you're forced to normal that. For 2s, you've got a Vampire Sucker, summons back from their grave and turns it into a zombie. And then if a zombie is summoned from the grave, she draws a card. Dark, obvious. closed heaven. You can spit out a bunch of names. So sometimes you just make her and then make goddess just to clear boards. More zombie stuff is Miyakashi. So on summon, she's just an imperm, but she can banish herself from grave to summon back one of your synchros. So sometimes that comes up. Vampire Fascinator is basically Celine. It summons back a zombie, but then locks you into zombies. So any 3, especially if you have Zombie World on board, you just bring back whatever. And then you go up into a 4, which is the other version of Miyakashi. This is a floodgate against Malice. It negates all activated effects that are banished. And then the other effect, I think, if they summon from grave... if a monster special summon from the graveyard or an effect in the graveyard is activated, she can change something on the board to 0 attack and negate it twice. So single imperm, double imperm, plus go to 0, and Malice Floodgate. If you're not locked under zombies, obviously you can go up into Access Code or the Underworld Goddess. And then Zombie Synchros, Zombie Necro. It gains 100 for every zombie in grave. This is usually plus 2,000 or more. I'm typically half the deck or less in the first turn or 2 anyway, so he gets really big. And then if another zombie monster is destroyed by battle, he can summon a zombie from graveyard. So sometimes you can crash something worthless and then reborn a king that's 10,000 during the battle phase, just to do some crazy stuff. Skeletal Felgrand is it's another imperm or a banish, I don't remember. This one never came up today. It's a target and banish, and then if another monster special summon from the graveyard while it's on the field, you can negate. So on summon, banish, negate. Otherwise it turns into a negate. And then the big Red Eye Zombie Dragon Lord. This guy is a quick effect on your opponent's turn, can summon back a zombie from grave. So it's real fun to make this into him, and then just make him revive this. And then if he's in the graveyard, he can banish any zombie from grave to reborn himself. So it's, this card got banished every time I made it today. Like instantly, through one way, shape, form, or another. It's kind of weird. And then Super Poly targets, which the only reason I ended up not maining the Super Poly package with the Zombie Worlds is I realized that he's not a zombie, he's a dragon. So you actually have some confliction if you end up locking yourself under zombies and then can't Super Poly. But that's Skull Servants in 2025.